Welcome to this BVTV Today's Leaders podcast trilogy, coming to you from the UK studios of BizVision. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. You would think with the thousands, if not millions, of books ever produced on leadership, that this subject would be exhausted. But here's the thing. Leadership is not only constantly evolving, but has dramatically changed since the COVID pandemic. Our aim at BVTV Today's Leader is to keep you ahead of the curve, which is why I'm delighted to have as my guest today for a Language of Leadership Trilogy, the author of this book. Welcome, Joel Schwartzberg. Hello, Joel.
Thank you, Malcolm. I'm delighted also to be here.
Yeah, well, listen, where are you today?
So normally I work in New York City, but as of March 2020, for reasons I don't have to go into, I now live at my home in Chatham, New Jersey, which is in the northern part of New Jersey.
Oh, listen, can I ask you then, were you hit by Hurricane Ida, wasn't it?
Many of us were, and I have many neighbors whose basements were flooded or houses or cars were flooded. Luckily, I was spared from most of that, but it was a terrible storm.
Yeah, it's frightening, isn't it? Joel, great to have you as a trilogy guest. I'm keen to discuss with you the aspects of your language of leadership thinking, especially in respect of the present day challenge to motivate and inspire teams who may have become fragmented or disillusioned recently. In this episode, I've got a multi-layered question for you. Getting my money's worth, aren't I? Let's talk about what you mean by the language of leadership. Why do today's leaders especially need to understand it? Where do they go wrong? And what's the risk of those mistakes?
So that's a big question, Malcolm. Let's break it down into some key observances, things I've learned, I've witnessed, I've trained, and what we can do to correct them. Because the book is not just an exploration of the challenges. It's really a manual on how to overcome them. And to become true champions of points. So when I talk about the language of leadership, I talk about the way that leaders have an impression on their teams and make impact. And the two things I think are most important in terms of that impact is one, engaging that audience, and two, inspiring that audience. And you're right, there are many books. You could go to Google and find 100 things about what leaders should do and how they should be. But consider this question. How do teams and employees experience those things? How do they know that their leaders are authentic or committed or have passion or have a vision? Do they perform dance routines? Is there mime involved? Is there telepathy involved? No, it's communication. Mm-hmm. That's how we experience leadership. And by that, I mean speeches. I mean videos, posts, texts, chats, emails. And part of the language of leadership is also listening. How do you actively listen so a leader is best prepared to respond to the needs of their audience, their teams, and their employees? So that's the framework. And if I could pick one big thing, because I like to give recommendations and tips, that's what I like to read, and that's what I like to share. It's starting with this idea that many leaders start with the question, what can I say? Yeah. What do I want to say today? What do I want to say to my employees? And that's the wrong question, because you could ask that question to a wall, your pets, to your plants. That's just about putting words out there. At the end of the day, you want your audience, your teams, your employees to receive and digest that information and find relevance in it. So the right question is, what does my audience and my team and my employees want and need to know? Once you identify that, work backwards so that you can match their appetite, their interest, and you're having an impact that truly connects to what they want to hear.
Yeah. Can I squeeze a little extra bit in there?
Sure.
In this time, this altered times that we're in now, and we're dealing a lot with conscious leadership, do you think that leaders, when they're doing this communication, have got to present it in a different way? I'm not saying change the voice, because you quite rightly in your book say don't.
Right, be authentic, right?
Yeah, but be authentic. But you can also say something a little bit more compassionately, can you?
Yes, you can. There are parts in the book and things I talk about inspiring hope, how to communicate with empathy, not just be empathic. And, when we talk about this new time, we're not just talking about the technology. Yes, we're doing more work in Zooms than in rooms, but people are struggling. They're stressful. There's tremendous anxiety. So it's more important than ever to inspire empathy. And that starts with knowing what empathy is. It's not sympathy. It's not here is how I'm going to solve your problem, or merely acknowledging it. It's stepping into those shoes. And I like to say that empathy is 3 steps. We love the magic of 3 steps here. You have a trilogy. So my 3 steps to communicating empathy involve acknowledging the problem, showing you care about the problem. I care about your sense of safety and stability. And then I even include action as part of that empathy. We're introducing new policies and procedures to address those challenges and provide stability.
Yeah.
So if you follow those 3 steps, I think it helps.
Yeah, so I do find in your book, Minder, I love the bit that you're doing about empathy, because you've got some a fascinating table there which gives you a good guidance through there, rather than spouting out you got to have empathy. You're actually the book, like everything in the book, is extremely practical.
Right, and there are in fact 2 words, if you want to talk about empathy, that will trigger good communication or effective communication. Those words are rest assured. If you start a sentence, whether you're writing it or saying it or posting it or tweeting it or texting it, with rest assured, right away, the thing that will naturally come next is something that will comfort, is something that will raise morale, or at least give people a sense of stability, which is what people are looking for. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is a solution, but rest assured, we are working on it, and this is how, and we are all going to get through this.
Excellent. Thanks, Joel. Now, let me remind our audience of your URL, your website address, which obviously viewers you can see on the screen behind me, but for listeners, let me spell it out. Now, it's a bit of a long word, so just bear with me as I spell through. It's all the W's, joelschwartzberg.net. Now, let me spell that out for you. Joel is Joel, Joel, and Schwartzberg, SCHWARTZBERG. Yeah.
Correct.
Let me just say that again for you, everybody, listeners. JOELSCHWARTZBERG.net. Your book, this one, I do like it, by the way. I really do. I'm enjoying it. Yeah. It's called The Language of Leadership, How to Engage and Inspire Your Team. And it's published by BK, that's Barrett Kohler Publishers. Joel, I like the way you've written this book, and I totally agree with Kevin Eikenberry, by the way, his colleague that you've got to contact. You got Kevin's reference on the front there. His colleague Wayne Turmel has been a guest a number of times here on BVTV. I like that Kevin, whom I admire, says that if you apply what's in this book, your communication will be more purposeful, meaningful, and inspirational. Joel, you've set the scene brilliantly for episodes 2 and 3 in your trilogy.
Thank you, Malcolm. I look forward to the next conversation.